I'm Amanda Flink, the head of global events here at Telit. I am pleased to lead our discussion today, how Telit OneEdge drives fast device adoption. The first mile of IoT consists of edge devices and their data, but the first mile is often overlooked and underestimated by IoT platform providers. Today, we're going to explore Telit OneEdge, our award-winning software stack. OneEdge integrates with Telit modules and cloud services, enables you to connect and manage the IoT edge while simplifying your IoT deployment. In doing so, you maximize your IoT project success probability. So, who are these guys with me today? I'm joined by Stephen Payne, a regional product manager at Telit. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Amanda. How are you? Great to join you today.
Good, thanks. And Tim Way, our IoT services specialist. Thanks for joining, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
So you guys ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay, cool. So I touched briefly on the first mile of IoT, but perhaps our listeners don't know what this means. Can you explain what the first mile of IoT is?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Stephen. So I like to tell stories, and there's a little history of the origin of this term. So it actually comes from a phrase adopted by the internet industry, the last mile. So the last mile indicated physically plugging in the cable from the curb into the customer's premises. Now, in the world of IoT, that logic needs to be reversed, right? So they plug the cable in, boom, you have the internet. With IoT, it starts at the edge, okay? And collecting the data at the edge of the device and realizing it on an enterprise system and sending that over in a secured way. And OneEdge is the realization of that first mile vision. So that's why we refer to the first mile in this way.
Yeah, certainly, anyone that's building IoT solutions, right? One of the key items there is to make sure they accurately capture data. And a lot of times that's from an IoT device, right? So what OneEdge really helps you to do is, make sure that that device is optimized so that you can get proper, correct data for your solution.
Sure. Yeah. So you talked about connecting and securing devices, managing, moving data, streamlined integration. So tell us why data management is so vital.
Well, when you take a look at a deployment, a lot of companies will recognize this need really late in their process, right? And maybe that's when they go overseas for the first time and go international with their solution. Maybe it's when they reach a milestone of, X amount of devices deployed, and it just becomes really hard not only to troubleshoot, but to manage. But really, data management, from a OneEdge standpoint, starts at the beginning, right? We really want companies to begin to build their solution, but manage their expectation of how should it work. And maybe that's a perfect environment versus, worst case environment, right? So they can really benchmark what we would call their range of acceptance on a lot of things. Maybe it's battery life. Maybe it's RSSI for cellular connectivity. What does that look like so that at the end of that solution, I'm always able to collect that data? But also, we deploy a lot of tools that help companies do that kind of tier one support, right? So we actually offer a standalone app that maybe you give out to customer service, for example. It's read-only access, and it gives you all the information on the device. And it could be anything from, right, a battery-powered device where you're in a low battery state, or it may be that maybe you're deployed overseas. It used to be a 2G area. The carrier has started deploying a new network, and that's how you discover, oh, well, this network's being deployed now, so my device needs to behave a little bit differently. So device management, we think, is very critical, whether it's not just a large deployment, but any deployment of scale, whether that's geographic or scale and size.
Yeah, agreed. Device management really is the jaw dropper for companies that we exposed to that haven't been. Stephen hit the nail on the head when it comes to troubleshooting and even the development process to get a baseline. So
So that sounds complicated. How easy is this to use, to set up? Let's dive into that for a second.
Yeah, extremely easy. We usually have to qualify the customer. Now, we need to let the audience know that OneEdge is only compatible with Telit hardware. So first, we need to make sure that the customer has our hardware and it's a qualifying hardware. Once that happens, we set them up on an account. We load in their IMEIs and they get login credentials and you're off and running.
Yeah, and it honestly, from a device management standpoint, it can be as easy or as complicated as a customer may want, right? Typically, Tim and I see two flavors of customers. One is a customer who's working with our hardware. Maybe it's their first time building a cellular build. So they're getting to know Telit AT command structures, how they should make the device work and check things. So instead of checking, individual AT commands all at once, the easiest way to deploy our device management is to use our one AT command to connect it to our cloud. And then you're getting all the information from a lightweight standpoint from our module into our platform. So we've got about 176 data points. So what makes that really easy is you send one AT command, you get a lot of data. So the only other way you would do that is to send a lot of individual AT commands until you understand the way you want it to behave, or even in deployment, right? You've got a much larger data packet that you're trying to pull information from. Now, certainly customers can become very sophisticated with our platform around the device management and develop profiles for devices, maybe multiple profiles. You can install triggers, right? So let's say a battery powered device, if you reach a certain threshold of low battery, you can automatically have the device change how it behaves. Maybe it no longer reports as much as it should. Maybe it reports a smaller stream of data to conserve battery. You could have it automatically send notices or notifications that someone either needs to change the battery or recharge the device, right? So it's a very flexible platform. I would say that most customers will start out with that introduction of, this is really easy to send one command and I get all this information. I did not have to pay anybody to code it or, spend development time doing that.
Awesome.
Great. So let's discuss FOTA for a minute. Why is it important? Who wants to take it?
FOTA, which we all know stands for firmware over the air update, is extremely important. And many times we don't realize that FOTA updates happen on our phones all the time. And what we're actually delivering to the device itself is a adjustment that the carriers are putting on the system. So it happens about once a year, but when the carriers make adjustments, we also have to adjust our software, and we want to make sure that the latest versions are available to our customers. So we give them a FOTA application to be able to create campaigns to deliver these latest firmwares to the devices out in the field.
Yeah,
The FOTA,
unfortunately, it's a necessary part of our industry, right? And, there are certain cases in which, firmware updates enhance the performance of our modules even. Certainly they go through a lot of security and testing before they're launched. But, things change very rapidly in this industry. So, what we like to do is make sure that we have a really easy tool that, again, saves you time from trying to either work with your carrier who may have very stringent FOTA rules or, create your own FOTA server, right? There's other things you probably can be doing with development time to drive revenue than that. So,
yeah. And also customers may not realize when you purchase a Telit module, all the certifications are included. So by having that FOTA tool, we can just keep you updated on the latest softwares that is approved.
Great. Next question we've got here. So cellular IoT holds tremendous potential for IoT applications, but obviously has many challenges. So how would OneEdge solve some of those challenges, and tell us how it's complementary to our other offerings? I think you kind of just alluded to that, but let's dive in a bit more.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what we see a lot with customers, and that is even someone who's very mature, had a lot of IoT solutions, they start adopting newer technologies. And what happens is when they adopt things like LTE-M, or maybe they adopt narrowband, or maybe they adopt 5G, right? From a cellular standpoint, all those networks behave, they should be benchmarked differently in your solution. And using a tool like OneEdge will really help you, again, try to set it up correctly in the first place, or even just try to figure it out, right? Even going from a Cat 1 solution to a Cat M solution is drastically different in battery usage. It's different in signal strength. It just looks different, right? So hopefully what we promote is a tool that helps you do that quicker, right?
Yeah, and what I just wanted to add also is device management can be used during development, and we have seen that. I think we're going to talk a little bit about use cases, but the use case of development, we didn't imagine that it would be utilized for that when we first came out with OneEdge. And we see when we talk to customers day after day that it's not just from deployment, and it's not just at the beginning of a project. Sometimes we see it will help them after they've launched. So it's not just at the beginning.
Yeah. So you mentioned use cases. So let's shift gears and kind of dive into that a little bit. What applications would benefit most from OneEdge? Maybe you can talk us through a few kind of real world examples.
Yeah, certainly. One of the things that I see would be, I always ensure that customers that have gone from what we would call a normal North American footprint, right? United States and Canada, maybe Mexico included, right? And they're going to Europe, they're going to South America, right? They're going where they haven't seen network performance, they haven't been on those types of networks before. It's key for them to understand that their deployment's going to look a lot different now. And when you look at it either by region or if you look at it from an overall deployment standpoint, I think it's really key to have as much information as you can get. Now, what's really cool is, later this year, Telit will be supporting 5G deployments on the OneEdge platform. And I think that's exciting because, again, that network's totally different. Obviously, along with every other network today, is going through so many changes, right? For you to get real-time information on performance and what might be causing your hang-up, I think is pretty doggone important. But I know Tim's got some cool examples.
Yeah, so we had a customer that had deployed, and they were finding that there was issues with certain devices in a specific area, and they weren't able to identify it. So they worked with our FAE department. We realized that this was a device that was compatible with OneEdge, and we went ahead and lit it up, and they were able to go look at the network configuration in the area where it was dropping and found out it was the network that was causing that. So it wasn't dependent on the device, so that fixed it. We also found with a company that makes personal emergency response system devices, it was important that they had FOTA in there. So they have thousands of these devices out in the field, and they saw the need to update the firmware. So after launch, they came to us with this challenge through, again, that one actually came through our FAE department as well. We qualified it, went ahead, loaded the devices in the system, and boom, they had access to go update those devices out in the field. So I love my job, and because Steve and I, we're just fixing problems, right? So we have customers that come to us desperate in some cases, and OneEdge has been a great tool to fix these issues out in the field.
Yeah, I also kind of get a kick out of it when we've got a customer who's starting a new project and it's a little bit different than maybe what they've built before. Since OneEdge utilizes lightweight M2M, right, which is kind of an object server-based solution. There's a lot of open source objects out there that help them build a new type of solution really quickly. Kind of copy paste. You've got, your baseline of how you want to collect information. Your MCU is going to go out and gather it, and you can bring it into our platform, right? And you had mentioned, Amanda, our integration, right? You can go out and connect to all of the hyperscalers that are out there today, or even your own server, so that you quickly bring something to market, right? That's what we're trying to do, is help customers build something with new technology, get it to market quickly, so they can start driving revenue.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. So, kind of here's a great last question for you guys, but how would somebody get started? Sort of walk us through, what are the requirements? How do you implement OneEdge?
Well, definitely we want to engage with the customer early on. Believe it or not, even in some of these design reviews, when the customer is trying to decide what kind of hardware they're looking at, we get in there early on, because when it comes down to it, OneEdge is a feature of our hardware. So once we've been able to capture business away from our competitors because we have the capability of our OneEdge in our modules. So once we've identified that, we get them started. We always need to get them started with hardware. So we get hardware in their hands. We have them fill out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire just helps us understand the use case, how often it connects, if it's a battery operated asset. Once we have that information, we go ahead and set them up. We send them over login information, and that gives you access to the Telit App Center. And within that Telit App Center, you have access to different applications. One, the FOTA app, and device management were the first two that we talked about. So it's pretty quick. And then if they have any questions, we have a very robust technical support mechanism, and Stephen and I always make ourselves available to our customers to answer any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just, like every other solution we have at Telit, right? Working through that process with the customer, getting support, getting them to the point where once they really dive deeper into, their first couple of days with OneEdge, and they really start implementing their own stuff, that we've got the technical help that can help them do that.
Yeah, that's great, guys. Stephen, you want to kind of wrap us up here?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've talked a lot today about what Telit can do for you, right? So when you're attempting to go out and scale and deploy your IoT deployment, right, it's going to be time consuming, it's going to be costly, and it's really going to, test what do I need to make this work. So from a Telit standpoint, right, we handle the hardware, we handle the software, we handle the data orchestration, also the data management services. That allows our customers to focus on their application and system development, right? And really, when you talk about what we focused on today, Telit OneEdge can really take you through that entire first mile journey, from prototyping your device to putting it into mass production to even beyond, right, when device management is helping you manage that deployment. So, certainly we're here to help. We'd love to talk to anyone interested more about not only OneEdge, our hardware, our connectivity. We're happy to have those discussions and help customers build solutions.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Audience, we threw a lot at you today in a short amount of time. So if you have any questions, or you want Stephen, Tim, one of our experts, to reach out to you for follow-up, please respond here on the poll. I'm going to drop that on your screen right now, and we'll be sure to get somebody in touch with you to answer any of your questions. Tim, Stephen, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.